Excuse me, miss. You're gonna have to move into the back, please.
I don't think so. You can sit right here. There's plenty of room.
It is my right as an American to sit in the front, while you black folk have to move to the back.
I have just as many rights as you. I can sit right here.
Bus driver, would you please call the authorities?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This young lady right here, she is not respecting my rights as an American. Good evening. Television and radio stations of the United States and their affiliated stations are proud to provide facilities for the discussion of issues in the current political campaign by the two major candidates for the presidency. Candidates, no need for introduction. The Republican candidate, Vice President Richard Nixon, and the Democratic candidate, Senator John F. Kennedy. And now for Mr. John F. Kennedy's opening statement.
Mr. Smith, Mr. Nixon. In the election of 1860, Abraham Lincoln said the question was whether this nation could exist half slave or half free. Mr. Khrushchev is in New York, and he maintains the communist offensive throughout the world because of the production of power of the Soviet Union itself. If we fail, then freedom fails. Therefore, I think the question before the American people is, are we doing as much as we can do? This is a great country, but I think it should be a greater country. And this is a powerful country, and I think it could be a more powerful country. A cotton farmer in Georgia, or a peanut farmer, or a dairy farmer in Wisconsin and Minnesota, he cannot protect himself against the forces of supply and demand in the marketplace. What we can do here, I think it's time America started moving again. That is all for now.
Thank you, Senator Kennedy. Now, for Vice President Richard Nixon. Mr. Nixon, for your opening statement, please.
Mr. Smith, Senator Kennedy, the things that Senator Kennedy has said, many of us can agree with. There is no question, but we cannot discuss our internal affairs in the United States without recognizing that they have a tremendous bearing on our international position. He has about 4 times as much chance that he'll be out of work in his life as the white baby. We find that more have been built in this administration than they have in the previous administration. Then there was a total growth of 11% over 7 years. I know what it means to be poor. I know what it means to see people who are unemployed. I know that Senator Kennedy feels as deeply about these problems as I do. But our disagreement is not about the goals for America, but only about the means to reach these goals. Thank you.
I remember that September evening of the Nixon-Kennedy debates. Normally you'd think a child would get tired of something that's so long, drawn out, and boring. But my father was he talked it up so much for me. And he just said, Clara, you have to listen to this. And I was devastated that he wasn't there that night. But everyone else was there. My mother, my brothers, my sisters, we were all gathered around the kitchen table listening to that radio. My father himself was in Chicago watching the Nixon-Kennedy debates live. I was so envious of him. We sat around that table for hours listening to that debate. And all I can remember is what an eloquent speaker Nixon was. He had such perfect points. And it just made sense to me. A little girl. And I knew that's exactly how my father felt too. In fact, I remember when my father called me not 5 minutes after the debate to fill me in on what he had seen, live in person.
Yes, Mother?
he did awful. Yes, Mother is the one that said that, but that hasn't... You'd vote for Kennedy, even if he was a Russian? That's ridiculous! I don't... Well, if that's what you think, Father, but I mean, I really thought that You didn't think Nixon did well? Okay, Father. All right. I'll tell everyone you're doing well. Have fun in Chicago. Bye. Clara! Yes, Mother? What did your father say? What did he want? Nothing, Mother. Okay. Go back to bed. Give me some food. I want nothing. And I remember that day. I remember how beautiful JFK's speech was. It was perfect. Crisp to a T. There was not one thing wrong with it. But then consider Nixon. He was a sweaty pig. My father told me how disgusting that man was, and I knew we couldn't have a man like that leading our country, which is why his speech was probably so awful. And I knew from the second that I heard JFK's speech how perfect he was, and how good he was going to be for our country. Everything about JFK exemplifies what a beautiful, intelligent man he was. But don't get me started on that Ted Kennedy. He's awful. He killed a woman, you know. Ugh. Ted Kennedy.
Was that her picking you?